Hello. So I wanted to make today's video for anyone that is either soon to be starting or wants to potentially start in the future on ADHD medication. And it's going to be the do's and don'ts. So the things that might help in your first few weeks and what to definitely avoid in your first few weeks as well. So we'll start with the do's. And the first do that I want to talk about is making sure that you and your doctor titrate your dose accurately to find the ideal therapeutic dose for you. So I think it's, personally for me, it was really important that I'd tried all of the dosages that the doctor recommended, because that way I had a better idea of the lower end of the scale and what ineffective looked like here, moving up towards ineffective at the other end of the high scale in terms of the dose. And then I could plan, my doctor could plan where would be best for me to be on like a therapeutic dose somewhere in between the two ineffective poles of high and low dose, if that makes any sense. So I think that's huge, because if you get that bit right, you're much less likely to get unwanted side effects that last kind of indefinitely. So insomnia, overstimulation, things like that, common side effects like that. Do number 2 is to make sure that you're exercising. I've spoken quite a bit about exercise and how it really helps me deal with my ADHD. Not only does it get me out of the house and into fresh air and a bit more active, but it also settles my nerves and gives me much more energy, which, if I time it well, can then help to really alleviate the wear-off effects later in the afternoon. So when you might be finding that you're probably going to slump at sort of 3, 4, 5 p.m, depending on when you took your medication, you time your exercise well, you'll get the natural endorphins from working out that will boost your energy and mean that you can go further into the day and be more productive later in the day, which is do number 3. Is to make sure that you keep a diary. I also spoke about keeping a diary in the sensory overload video, but I think this is really super important when you first start your medication. So when I first started taking medication, I was so up and down, like emotionally, and my thoughts in terms of how I felt the medication was doing. If I felt like it was doing the job as well as it could be, if it wasn't working. And having a diary that I could look back on and say objectively, well, I was here and I was feeling this way, I haven't felt any better, therefore a change in dose might be what's needed. Or potentially, I felt like crap, I now feel good, but I'm having a bad day, so I don't need to change medication, it's just I'm having a bad day. Having something that you can look back on like that is invaluable, or it was for me anyway. In essence, what it did is it stopped me from overreacting if I felt as though the meds might not be working, if that makes sense. So moving on to the don'ts now for when you start ADHD medication. And don't number 1, which is a huge one, and it's not falling into the never-ending increasing dose trap, which is easy to do. So I'm obviously not saying here to not increase your dose whatsoever, or to never go up and titrate, because that's the whole idea of a titration phase, obviously. What I'm saying is, don't get sucked into the feeling that you get in the honeymoon phase, because that will wear off, and after a week, 2 weeks, however long it is, you might not feel that euphoria that you felt at the start of the medication. And that doesn't mean that it's not working, it just means that your body's adapting, your body and your mind are adapting to that dosage. And that's a good thing. You don't want to feel euphoric all the time, because it's not realistic. But I was warned about quite a common theme that people tend to overreact at this phase, or at this stage, and then ask for an increase in their dosage because they feel as though it wasn't high enough. And it's just then a vicious circle or a downward spiral of moving from one dose to the next. And then when the honeymoon phase ends, you go up again. I've said it before and I'll say it again, the medication has been for me, and I'm sure can be for a lot of people, a real eye-opener in terms of how their daily life could be so much better. but you also need to be realistic, I feel, in terms of what to expect from the medication, because it's not a panacea. You will still have flaws, setbacks, and negative thoughts, irritability and whatnot. And you have to learn to live with those things. You can't expect to take the medication and for it all to vanish all of a sudden. So the second don't I want to talk about is not losing faith in finding sort of an effective treatment for yourself. When I first started on Concerta, or Concerta, either one, it came after a long period of excitement and hope that I might find something that would potentially help me with the side effects that I've been feeling. And then when Concerta didn't live up to my expectations and just made me really irritable, pissed off, frustrated and tired all the time, I did really lose hope and thought, well, this obviously isn't the right thing for me. I must not have ADHD. I've been misdiagnosed. And then a week or so later, I started on Elvance, and it was a completely different experience. It was like night and day in comparison to Concerta. What I'm basically trying to say is, if one medication doesn't work for you, you might just need a different medication. Your body might just react badly to one and really well to another one, like mine did. Yeah, stick with it. Anyway, those were a few do's and don'ts for when you first start ADHD medication. I hope some of them come in handy. Let me know if you are starting medication soon, or if you've recently started and how you're getting on, or if you've got any questions about the process of starting medication or anything. Yeah, drop them down below. But anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.